The first rays of dawn painted the city in shades of amber and gold as Marcus Williams locked the glass doors of the downtown office building behind him. His security uniform hung loose on his tired frame, the fabric wrinkled from another long night of walking empty hallways and checking locks. The weight of his flashlight pulled at his belt as he descended the concrete steps, each footfall echoing in the morning stillness. 8 hours of solitude gave a man time to think, sometimes too much time. Marcus pulled his phone from his pocket, checking for messages from Mrs. Rodriguez, his neighbor who watched Sophie during his overnight shifts. The screen showed nothing new, just a photo of his 80-year-old daughter sleeping peacefully in her bed, dark curls spread across her pillow like spilled ink. The walk home took him past the old steel bridge that spanned the river, its green paint peeling like diseased skin. Most mornings, he barely glanced at the structure, focused only on reaching his apartment before Sophie woke for school. But today something made him pause at the pedestrian entrance. A figure stood at the center of the bridge, silhouetted against the rising sun. Even from this distance, Marcus could see the telltale posture of someone carrying an unbearable weight. The woman's shoulders curved inward, her hands gripping the railing with white-knuckled desperation. Before we dive into this powerful story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you've witnessed acts of quiet heroism like this where you're from. Marcus felt his pulse quicken, not from fatigue, but from recognition. 3 years of graduate training and 5 years of clinical practice had taught him to read the subtle language of human despair. He had walked away from that world after Sarah's death, but the instincts remained sharp as ever. Marcus approached the bridge with measured steps, his work boots silent against the weathered concrete. The woman hadn't moved, her thin frame swaying slightly in the morning breeze that carried the scent of river water and exhaust fumes. She wore a faded denim jacket over clothes that had seen too many nights on hard surfaces, her dark hair hanging like a curtain around her face. He stopped 20 feet away, close enough to intervene, but far enough to avoid startling her. The old protocols whispered in his mind like muscle memory. Never approach too quickly. Always announce your presence. Respect their space while establishing connection. The woman's name, he learned later, was Elena Vasquez. But in this moment, she was simply another human being balanced on the edge between hope and despair, and Marcus recognized that terrible precipice from his years in crisis counseling. She must have sensed his presence because she turned her head slightly, revealing a face marked by exhaustion and loss. Her eyes held that hollow look he remembered from the emergency room consultations, when families received news that shattered their worlds into irreparable pieces. Marcus cleared his throat gently. "Elena," he said softly, testing the name that seemed to fit her somehow. "My name is Marcus. I was wondering if you might like some company this morning." She didn't respond immediately, but her grip on the railing loosened slightly. The silence stretched between them, filled with the distant hum of early traffic and the lapping of water against the bridge supports below. "I'm just walking home from work," Marcus continued, his voice carrying the calm authority that had once guided families through their darkest moments. Sometimes the morning feels less lonely when you have someone to share it with. Elena finally looked at him directly, her gaze searching his face for signs of judgment or false pity. Elena's eyes were the color of storm clouds, dark with unshed tears and deeper pain. "You don't know me," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You don't know what I've done, what I've lost." Marcus nodded slowly, maintaining the respectful distance between them. "You're right, I don't know your story yet. But I know that whatever brought you here this morning feels impossible to carry alone." The morning sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the bridge deck. Below them, the river moved in lazy currents, deceptively peaceful from this height. Elena's fingers drummed against the metal railing, a nervous rhythm that spoke of anxiety and indecision. "I used to have a life," she continued, the words tumbling out like water through a broken dam. "A house, a job at the medical center. Then my daughter got sick and the bills started coming. Insurance didn't cover everything. I mortgaged the house, maxed out credit cards, sold everything I owned. Marcus listened without interruption, recognizing the familiar pattern of medical bankruptcy that had destroyed countless families. His own experience with hospital bills after Sarah's cancer treatment gave him intimate knowledge of that particular hell. "She died anyway," Elena whispered. "3 years ago. Leukemia. And I've been falling ever since. Lost the house. Lost my job when I missed too much work grieving. Been living in shelters, in my car when I had one, on the streets when I didn't." The morning breeze picked up, rustling through Elena's hair and carrying the distant sound of traffic beginning to thicken as the city awakened. Marcus felt his heart clench with recognition of profound loss, remembering his own journey through the valley of grief. The sound of heavy footsteps interrupted the moment like a gunshot. Officer Bradley Thompson approached with the confident swagger of someone accustomed to moving people along, his hand resting casually on his radio. His uniform was crisp despite the early hour, brass buttons gleaming in the morning light. "All right, what's the situation here?" he called out, his voice carrying the authority of someone who viewed human problems as obstacles to be cleared. "Ma'am, you need to step away from the railing. This isn't a loitering area." Marcus turned slowly, keeping his body positioned between the officer and Elena. "Officer, I'm Marcus Williams. I was just having a conversation with my friend here. We're not causing any trouble." Thompson's eyes narrowed as he assessed the scene. The woman looked like trouble to him, another homeless person creating a public disturbance. The man in the security uniform seemed normal enough, but his protective stance irritated the officer. "Sir, I need you to move along," Thompson said, his tone brooking no argument. "This lady needs professional help, not a chat session. I'm calling this into mental health services." Elena's grip tightened on the railing, her knuckles going white. Marcus could see the panic rising in her eyes, the fight-or-flight response triggered by the officer's aggressive approach. Everything in his training screamed warnings about the danger of this moment. "Officer Thompson," Marcus said carefully, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. "I understand you're doing your job, but perhaps we could take a gentler approach here. Sometimes people just need someone to listen." The officer's face reddened with irritation. "Listen, buddy, I don't need advice on how to handle situations like this. Move along before I cite you for interference." Marcus felt the familiar weight of choice settling on his shoulders. He could walk away, return to his quiet life of night shifts and morning routines with Sophie. Or he could step back into the world he had abandoned, the one where words could mean the difference between life and death. Elena's breathing had become shallow and rapid, her eyes darting between Marcus and the approaching officer. The classic signs of acute stress response were unmistakable to someone trained to recognize them. Marcus knew that one wrong move, one harsh word, could push her over the edge she was already balanced upon. "Officer Thompson," Marcus said, stepping slightly forward while keeping his voice calm and measured. "I need you to understand that approaching someone in crisis with aggressive tactics can escalate the situation dangerously. What we need here is de-escalation and patience." The officer stopped mid-stride, his eyebrows rising in surprise. "Who exactly do you think you are? Some kind of expert? You're a security guard telling me how to do my job." Marcus looked back at Elena, whose face had gone pale as paper. In that moment, he made his choice. The same choice he had made years ago when he decided to dedicate his life to helping people in their darkest moments, before grief had driven him into hiding. "Officer, my name is Marcus Williams. I'm a licensed clinical therapist with specialized training in crisis intervention. I've handled hundreds of situations exactly like this one. Elena here isn't a problem to be solved or moved along. She's a human being in pain who needs careful, professional support." Thompson's expression shifted from irritation to skepticism. "A therapist working as a security guard, right? And I'm a mayor of this city." Marcus reached slowly into his wallet, extracting a worn business card from behind his driver's license. The edges were frayed from years of carrying it, a reminder of the life he had walked away from. He handed it to Officer Thompson, whose expression changed as he read the faded text. "Dr. Marcus Williams, licensed clinical social worker. Crisis Intervention Specialist, Emergency Psychiatric Services. The officer's skepticism wavered as he examined the card, noting the hospital seal and professional credentials. But then, Marcus continued quietly, "I lost my wife to cancer 3 years ago. Couldn't handle helping other families through trauma when I couldn't save my own. So I walked away, took night jobs where I wouldn't have to feel responsible for anyone's pain except my own." Elena had been listening to every word, her grip on the railing loosening slightly as understanding dawned in her eyes. "You really are a doctor," she whispered. "I was," Marcus replied, turning back to face her fully. "I specialized in helping people who felt exactly like you do right now. People who had lost everything that mattered, who couldn't see a way forward through the darkness." Officer Thompson cleared his throat, his earlier aggression replaced by uncertainty. "Dr. Williams, if that's really who you are, then maybe you should handle the situation. I'll call off the mental health unit for now." Marcus nodded gratefully, then focused entirely on Elena. Her face showed the first glimmer of something that might have been hope, mixed with desperate skepticism that anyone could truly understand her pain. "You said your daughter died of leukemia," Marcus said gently. "My wife Sarah had the same disease. I know what it feels like to watch someone you love disappear piece by piece, fighting battles that medicine can't always win." A sleek black sedan pulled to a stop at the bridge entrance, its engine purring quietly in the morning air. Dr. Sarah Chun stepped out, her tailored coat pristine despite the early hour. As the chief psychiatrist at City General Hospital and a member of the board of directors, she was accustomed to emergency calls, but something about this scene made her pause before approaching. She had been driving to an early morning board meeting when she noticed the gathering on the bridge. Her trained eye immediately assessed the situation. A woman in crisis, a uniformed officer standing at respectful distance, and a man in security clothing conducting what appeared to be a professional intervention. Dr. Chun moved closer, staying within earshot, but far enough away to avoid disrupting the delicate process unfolding before her. What she heard made her stop breathing for a moment. "Elena," Marcus was saying, his voice carrying the measured cadence of someone who had spent years talking people back from the edge. "The guilt you're carrying about your daughter's death isn't yours to bear. You didn't fail her. The system failed you both." His words carried a weight that spoke of personal experience, each syllable carefully chosen to penetrate the wall of self-blame that surrounded Elena like armor. Dr. Chun recognized the technique immediately. Cognitive reframing combined with validation therapy, executed with the skill of someone who had mastered the art of crisis intervention. "Tell me about her," Marcus continued. "What was her name? What did she love most in the world?" Elena's face crumpled as she whispered, "Maria. She was 7. She loved butterflies and strawberry ice cream, and those silly movies with talking animals. She used to say the butterflies were angels checking on us." Dr. Chun found herself leaning forward, captivated by the skill she was witnessing. Marcus was employing a technique she had rarely seen executed with such precision. Narrative therapy combined with grief processing, designed to help Elena separate her identity from her loss while honoring her daughter's memory. Marcus nodded thoughtfully as Elena spoke about Maria. "She sounds like she was an extraordinary little girl. Tell me, what do you think Maria would want for you right now, in this moment?" The question hung in the air like a bridge between past and present. Elena's tears flowed freely now, but they seemed different somehow, less poisonous than the ones that had brought her to this railing. "She would want me to live," Elena whispered. "She always said I was the strongest person she knew. Even when she was sick, she worried about me more than herself." Dr. Chun watched as Marcus maintained perfect eye contact with Elena, his body language open and non-threatening despite the intensity of the moment. His training was evident in every gesture, every carefully modulated tone. This was not amateur hour. This was professional-level crisis intervention happening on a bridge at dawn. "You honored her by fighting for her life," Marcus said gently. "You gave everything you had, and that took incredible courage. But Elena, surviving doesn't dishonor her memory. Living fully doesn't mean you loved her any less." Officer Thompson stood quietly nearby, no longer impatient to clear the scene. Even he could sense the profound transformation taking place, the careful reconstruction of a shattered soul happening before their eyes. "Maria's butterflies," Elena said suddenly, looking up at the sky where the first hints of blue were pushing away the gray dawn. She always said they carried messages between earth and heaven. Elena slowly stepped back from the railing, her legs trembling as the adrenaline of the moment began to fade. Marcus extended his hand, palm up, an invitation rather than a demand. She stared at it for a long moment before placing her cold fingers in his warm grasp. "I don't know how to start over," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. "I don't even know where I would begin." Dr. Chun chose that moment to approach, her footsteps careful and measured. She had witnessed something extraordinary, a masterclass in crisis intervention that surpassed anything she had seen in her 20 years of practice. The man in the security uniform had just saved a life using skills that took years to develop and a lifetime to master. "Excuse me," Dr. Chun said softly, addressing both Elena and Marcus. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chun from City General Hospital. I couldn't help but witness what just happened here, and I want you both to know that what I saw was remarkable." Marcus turned, still holding Elena's hand, his expression wary. He had revealed too much of himself already, exposed the professional identity he had tried so hard to bury. But Elena needed stability now, needed to know that the connection they had forged wouldn't disappear with the sunrise. "Dr. Williams," Dr. Chun continued, reading his name from the business card Officer Thompson still held. "I recognize exceptional therapeutic work when I see it. What you accomplished here this morning represents the highest level of crisis intervention." Elena looked between them, confusion replacing some of the anguish in her eyes. "Dr. Williams?" she asked. Marcus squeezed her hand gently. "That's who I used to be before I decided I wasn't strong enough to keep helping people heal when I couldn't heal myself." Dr. Chin's eyes held genuine admiration as she addressed Marcus. "Dr. Williams, I've been searching for someone with your exact skill set for months. Our hospital's crisis intervention program has been struggling to find therapists who can handle the most challenging cases. What you demonstrated here today is exactly what we need." Marcus felt a familiar stirring in his chest, the same calling that had driven him into therapy years ago. But doubt crept in alongside the recognition. "I haven't practiced in 3 years," he said quietly. "I walked away because I couldn't handle the weight of other people's pain when my own was drowning me." Elena's grip on his hand tightened. "But you saved me," she said, her voice stronger now than it had been all morning. "You brought me back when I was already gone. That doesn't happen by accident." Officer Thompson stepped forward, his earlier skepticism completely dissolved. "Sir, I've been working this beat for 12 years, and I've never seen anything like what you just did. Most of the time in situations like this, we're calling for body bags, not miracle workers." Dr. Chin nodded emphatically. "Marcus, grief doesn't disqualify you from helping others. Sometimes it makes you better at it, because you understand loss in ways that textbooks can't teach. Our emergency department desperately needs someone who can reach people at their darkest moments." The morning sun had climbed higher, casting everything in golden light that seemed to symbolize new possibilities. Marcus looked at Elena, whose face showed the first signs of hope he had seen since approaching the bridge. "Maybe Maria's butterflies brought us together this morning," Elena said softly. "Maybe some connections are meant to heal more than one person at a time." 3 months later, Marcus walked through the automatic doors of City General Hospital Crisis Center, his new identification badge reading Dr. Marcus Williams, Crisis Intervention Specialist. The weight of his stethoscope around his neck felt like coming home after a long journey through darkness. Elena met him in the lobby, her transformation as remarkable as his own. Clean clothes, steady employment as a patient advocate in the hospital's social services department, and most importantly, hope restored to her eyes. Dr. Chun had been true to her word, helping Elena access housing assistance and connecting her with grief counseling resources. "How was your first week back?" Elena asked, falling into step beside him as they walked toward the elevator. Challenging, Marcus admitted with a smile. But every person I help reminds me why I became a therapist in the first place. Sarah would be proud to know that her death taught me how to save others from the same despair that almost claimed me. Elena nodded thoughtfully. Maria would love knowing that her butterfly theory was right. That connections can carry messages between people who need each other most. The elevator doors opened to reveal Dr. Chun, who greeted them both with genuine warmth. Ready for the board meeting? She asked Marcus. The hospital administration wants to expand the crisis program based on our success rates since you arrived. As they rode up together, Marcus thought about Sophie, who had been so proud when he told her dad he was going back to being a doctor who helped sad people feel better. He thought about the bridge where everything had changed and how sometimes the most broken people were the ones most qualified to help others heal. If this story touched your heart, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite moment, or if you've ever witnessed someone's hidden talents emerge in a moment of crisis.